Minister, I welcome the 6 million that was announced for regional airports, but can I ask why your department has not sought an EU derogation for this 6 million funding, as was done with Shannon and Cork, the 22 million extra funding that was allocated there? And have you checked that this funding now meets the EU state aid rules under the temporary framework? And can you give us a breakdown of that money for the airport and a timeline? Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. The impact of COVID-19 on the aviation industry continues to be devastating, with knock-on effects for our domestic tourism and regional economies, particularly in the West. This has been further compounded by Ryanair's most recent decision to cut its winter capacity at Ireland West Airport and to cancel all services for a 4-week period from the end of next week until mid-December. Ryanair made this decision on a commercial basis in light of poor forward bookings for the period in question. It also forms part of a wider move by the airline to cut its capacity on flights across Europe. That does not detract, however, from the impacts that this is having on Ireland West, as well as Cork, Kerry and Shannon airports. However, I want to ensure you, Deputy, that the continued viability of these airports is very important to this government. Ireland West Airport will continue to receive ongoing exchequer support as part of the Regional Airports programme. This year, the airport has already received capital support of over €1 million and is also eligible to apply for the operational supports from an available budget of €3.5 million. In keeping with the Government's priorities for regional development, I expect to publish a new regional airports programme for 2021 to 2025 in the coming weeks. This will give funding certainty to Ireland West over a 5-year timeframe, helping the airport to remain viable as it transitions through the various phases of recovery from COVID. The Government has confirmed its commitment to the continuation of the programme in Budget 2021 by securing more than €21 million for airports like Ireland West. I'm also pleased to refer to the additional supports that were agreed by Government this week as part of the revised €80 million funding package for Irish aviation. As part of this package, in addition to the €21 million already secured for next year under the Regional Airports programme, the Government intends to make a further €6 million available to Ireland's smallest airports, including Knock. The funding package will also include a €20 million airport charges rebate scheme for the period of January to March 2021, which will support the retention of core connectivity. I'll come back to your other questions, Deputy. Sorry.
Minister, and I welcome your commitment there and your outlining of the plan in particular, and I look forward to seeing that. But you didn't answer my question in relation to why the EU derogation wasn't sought for the regional airports, and also whether you have checked that that 6 million funding actually comes within the temporary framework. It's really important that that's done, because although the money is allocated, we don't have certainty around the temporary framework, and if that means what the breakdown of it will be and when the airports can expect to get that money. I also need to ask you if some of that funding, or the funding even that you referred to there, can be used for testing, because testing is now an integral part of the survival of regional airports, and costs that are being mentioned are of concern to many passengers. So is there any funding available within what you've mentioned there to subsidise that testing? Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. In relation to the €6 million announced this week for our regional airports, that will be administered by the Department of Transport. The Department has already begun the process of engaging with the European Commission in relation to state aid rules. We know that Ireland is an island nation, and I don't need to explain it to you or anyone here in this chamber, the importance of that core connectivity. So I'd be very hopeful that that will be successful. And as I say, it will be up then to the regional airports to apply through the Department of Transport in relation to that funding. In relation to the testing, as I outlined earlier, that will be, as you know, DAA, Dublin, Cork and Shannon will be opening up drive-through testing facilities, and that will be done through the private sector, and also the private sector will be facilitating that right across the country for the likes of Knock Airport, also for those who would require a test in advance of flying if you're flying to another country, or indeed those who are coming here from red or orange listed countries who need to take a test after 5 days of arrival here. Thank you.
Thank you. I would really appreciate it if you could give me in writing the answer to the question around the derogation and why that wasn't done, because it's very important that we understand that, and also to give me a written update in terms of the correspondence with in terms of the temporary framework and if it meets the criteria there, because I think making announcements without having that information just causes a bit of uncertainty, and God knows we have enough uncertainty at this time with everything that's happening, particularly for regional airports. In regard to the testing, you see, I'm concerned because Kerry Airport are mentioning a cost of €70. Ireland West is talking about €140. I'm concerned around the procurement processes of that in terms of the private providers and in terms of the costs and the differentiation between the costs there. And I would ask that maybe you'd have another look there in terms of regional airports, if there was a funding line somewhere that could be used to subsidise that. I don't want passengers to be in a situation where they can't afford to come home because that's cost prohibitive.
Thank you.
Thank you. In relation to state aid rules, there is there's eligibility there where airports have suffered damages due to COVID-19, and I think it is very clear and obvious to us that the likes of Knock Airport, our regional airports, have been severely impacted by COVID-19, and it is in that regard that we are engaging with the European Commission, and you can be assured of the certainty around that, Deputy, and the importance of maintaining our core connectivity, and that is the reason Government this week added an extra €6 million in addition to the €21.3 million in relation to our regional airports. In relation to testing, again, that will be provided by the private sector. We know that the gold standard test is the PCR test. It will be rolled out by the private sector, and again, as more capacity and as more technology comes online and as the uptake increases, it will reduce the cost of it, but it is considerable cost, the PCR test at the moment. And as you may be aware, the NVRL is also looking at other testing technologies like LAMP tests, which may be significantly cheaper, more inexpensive than the PCR test, if they do come on board and become validated, and that could be an option for passengers also.